right, people. Let's clear the set, please. We're getting ready for the next scene. I need Gary and Irene. Gary? Irene? Quickly, please. Good. All right, let's see where we are. Okay. Oh, yes, okay. I love this scene. It's deep. Have you both read it? Great. Now you know how it is when a scene just throws off sparks? It's electric, that magic? That's what I'm looking for you two, from the two of you in this scene. I don't want you to just, recite the lines, throw in a mannerism, some wave of the hand, a significant twitch of the eyebrow, all right? You're in character. I want you to get inside your characters and charge the roles with meaning. Bring them to life, those sparks, that magic. Make this irresistible. That's what we're looking for. Because anytime you're given a script, it's just words, And what are words? Just sounds, right? With meaning. Sounds with meaning. That's words. You've got to get inside those words and make them live. Yes, that's it. This is just like open heart surgery. You operate, see, on those words and get them pumping. You've got to read between, dig down beneath the lines. You're like a miner or a scuba diver, because the words on the page are just the tip of the iceberg. That's it, the iceberg. When you deliver your lines, I want you to feel that iceberg. You're standing on it, tons and tons of subtext, a life. What was your character doing the moment before, and the moment before that? A lifetime of moments, all culminating in this moment. It's a fruition, okay? Every moment, that's what it is, a fruition, a blossoming of all the other moments that have come before. Wow! All the time we go around talking in the lightest chit-chat that is only masking, yes, that's it, masking primal needs, visceral feelings, gut expectations, passion, desire, bare knuckles, raw flesh, hormones, nerve endings, secrets, pain, mysteries, the good stuff, the juicy stuff. There's your iceberg, all right? Okay, great. Let's do it then. Irene, you're a nurse at your station. You can be filing charts, whatever. Gary, you're a doctor. You're just about to step off the elevator on Irene's floor. Now, I want you to remember the iceberg. You're both standing on an iceberg. Gary Berg and Irene Berg, okay? Everything you are enriches the scene, keeps it from being generic. So keep it all in mind, okay? Your past as a character is a treasure, as well as your shared history, a storehouse of immense wealth. Don't squander a fortune. Bring it all to bear. Good. Okay. Irene, you're a woman who needs a father figure, right? Approval from male authority, because you were deserted by your own father when you were a little girl. And yet, because you were abandoned, you never completely trust the men you so desperately need. As a matter of fact, the more you're attracted to them, the greater your anxiety. So when you meet Gary and fall in love with him, along with that tremendous appeal, it's very threatening to you. Gary, you come from a poor background. Sodbusters, squatters, hardscrabble hillbillies. You're the only one in your family that ever graduated from kindergarten. You had to work your way through medical school as a chimney sweep, and you've never forgotten it. Your success has also separated you from your family. You're extremely ambitious and very insecure, constantly struggling to get ahead, and never quite believing it when you do. Maybe you love Irene and could even marry her, but not at the cost of pursuing your career. Okay, so, Gary, her pregnancy came as quite a shock to you. You believed it was your illegitimate baby Irene was carrying, and you were deeply ambivalent about it, proud to father a child, and in love with Irene, but angry that she, a trained medical professional, would have conceived out of wedlock, and afraid that this could jeopardize everything you've worked so hard to achieve. Still, you were prepared to go ahead and marry her, and you were stunned when she refused, turned down your proposal, had the baby, and put it up for adoption. What you didn't know is that it wasn't your child at all. Irene couldn't bear to tell you the truth, but it was actually the child of your twin brother, Arnold, who had just gotten out of prison and had raped her. Irene, imagine what that did to you when you found out it was Arnold posing as Gary and not Gary who had fathered your child. You were thrown into a terrible depression, which only got worse after you gave the baby up, and you could not find comfort where you needed it most, with Gary. You couldn't tell him the truth because you didn't want to hurt him, but you couldn't keep the baby because you knew it would always remind you of Arnold. But Arnold was not out of your life yet. He came to you and threatened to reveal everything to Gary. He laughed at you, hit you, and tried to rape you again. That's when you shot him. You couldn't tell the truth at your trial about the baby for fear it would destroy Gary. Your lawyers tried to talk you into pleading on a lesser charge of manslaughter, but you got rid of them and defended yourself, and you were acquitted on the grounds of self-defense. You never would have made it through the trial had it not been for the sudden, unexpected appearance of your half-sister Jill, who stood by you when everyone else had given up hope. And when the verdict came in and you were acquitted, Jill collapsed. At first they thought it was exhaustion or nerves, but they did tests and it was diagnosed as a brain tumor, inoperable. And it was your turn to stand by her. Poor Jill hung on for months, slipping into an irreversible coma, never telling you that she had fallen helplessly in love with her physician, Gary, who returned her feelings. Gary, you felt double guilt about betraying Irene with her sister and not being able to bring Jill out of her coma, and the two of you would never have reconciled had Irene not been kidnapped by that madman, Sanchez, the political terrorist. When you recognized her, Gary, when you rescued her, Gary, risking your life and your future to save her, it erased all doubts, both for you and Irene. And the two of you would have been married on the spot if Arnold's gambling debt hadn't come back to haunt you. Sick at the prospect of returning to a life of dire poverty, you raised all the cash you could, Gary, and borrowed Irene's life savings, telling her that you were putting it into a money market fund. Instead, you used that money to try to recoup Arnold's losses at the casino, but, having no experience in gambling, you lost that too. Now you're broke, you don't even have money for lunch, you're scheduled for complicated neurosurgery, and you've got a terrible hangover from staying out too late. Not to mention the three guys following you who are trying to collect on Arnold's debt. And then there's Sanchez, who is trying to kill you. Worse yet, you've just discovered that Jill is pregnant. No one knows but you, and Irene wants to turn off Jill's life support because she thinks her sister is legally dead. Irene, you don't know about Jill's baby, or that you've lost your life savings, but you just decided to look for your son. You think he should know his biological mother. And then a call came a few moments ago from the prosecutor's office. In fact, you just finished that conversation as the elevator with Gary arrives. Somehow they learned about your baby, and they want to reopen your case and try you again, based on the new evidence. That could mean, if you found your son, he'd know his mother was a murderer. You didn't think you could stand the strain of another trial, especially not without your sister, so you unplugged Jill and stole a bottle of morphine, and you're contemplating suicide when the phone rings again, and it's your father, whom you haven't seen since you were 3. You're on the phone with him as the elevator bell rings and Gary steps off. Okay? Gary, you ready? Okay, the elevator rings. You step off, Gary, and you see Irene on the phone. Irene, you see Gary. Gary, your line is Irene. And Irene, you're going to say Gary. Okay? I want you to read those lines with all the feeling and the nuances behind them. Remember the iceberg, okay? The fruition, the blossoming. All right. Shall we give it a go? Action. Irene.
Gary.
Perfect! Wonderful! I've got chills, I mean it. Great job, you two. Next scene, next scene.